This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Now, the propositions that I seek to promote through the project is the notion that Sharia has a future. In my mind, there is no doubt about this. I mean, I'm not questioning in the least. In fact, my whole object is to fulfill the future of Sharia, to secure the future, to promote the future of Sharia. But that can only be outside the framework of the state. So my claim is that Sharia is too important to be entrusted to the state and to the claim of the state to be able to enforce it. Second proposition, I will highlight them, mention them briefly and then try to explain some of them, that Sharia remain contested and constantly evolving. It is not a stagnant, it is not a fixed understanding. Because if it is, then it ceases to be relevant and it dies. So if we believe in the continuity of the relevance of Sharia, we have to accept its possibility of constant evolution and transformation according to our human needs. To the extent that Sharia responds to my needs, it is relevant and it is valid. To the extent it does not, then it is not relevant and it's not valid. But Sharia cannot be enforced by the state. By that I mean a Sharia principle ceases to be Sharia by the very act of enacting it as law. So the whole idea of enacting a statute as Sharia is a contradiction. By enacting it, you are removing the quality of its being Sharia because it becomes the political will of the state and not the normative system of Islam. For that, I'm saying that the notion of an Islamic state is incoherent. The state cannot be religious, ever. I'm saying I make these wild claims, and as I remind me of my overstated generalizations. My claim is that the notion of a religious state is incoherent and historically false. The state cannot be religious. The state is not a human being who has a conscience and a belief, sort of to be able to believe and to be religious in that sense. Now, the claim is made of the state being religious, but that does not make the claim valid because it is made. Specifically regarding Islamic societies, my claim is that there has never been an Islamic state, not a single day. That the state was always a political institution. If you speak of a state, then you are talking about a political institution. And you cannot talk about a religious political institution in the sense that it cannot be a religion or be affiliated with a religion in that sense. Now, to say a state cannot be religious does not mean that every state is secular. I would like to believe, or in one sense one can speak of every state because we tend to think of the secular as the opposite of religious. So if the state is not religious, then it must be secular. In a sense that is true, but it's confusing because we have to understand secularism or a secular state in a particular way, and many states do not qualify for being secular states. So for that reason, I say a state cannot be religious. One second point is that many states which by definition are not religious do not yet or may not be sufficiently secular states. And my project is to promote the secular state as an imperative of the possibility of being Muslim. I need a secular state to be Muslim because I can only be Muslim by choice. And the state can never coercively enforce piety, or nobody can in that sense. So in that sense, I'm saying that the state is not religious by definition. Whether a state is secular enough or not remains to be seen and also to be contested. And this is something that we can struggle with. Now, I'm not suggesting in the least that Sharia ceases to be relevant. In fact, Sharia will remain a fundamental socializing force, a fundamental normative source and normative system for Muslims everywhere. A Muslim is bound to observe Sharia no matter what. Whatever else is going on we never cease to be responsible for upholding Sharia, but we can never do so except by choice, voluntarily. And any coerced piety, coerced conformity is by definition not religious. It loses the quality of being Islamic. And there is, for those who are Muslim or familiar with the term, there is a fundamental notion of niyyah, that is intention. No act can be religiously valid except when intended as such. And nobody can force intention. You may force me to go to the mosque to pray, but if you do, I pray to the state which forced me to go there, not to God. I cannot pray to God except when I go into the mosque voluntarily or fast voluntarily. That's why what I mean by I need a secular state to be Muslim.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.